So talking about getting schooled on something, Malik Hornsby getting schooled at wide receiver, Ty.
Yeah, not super shocking. I think a lot of fans were forecasting this. I can remember his recruitment, people talking about, well, he's so fast. He's so quick. He ought to play wide receiver. And, of course, his recruiting process, what was getting back to us from the media and people who followed his recruitment was that he absolutely wanted to play quarterback. So it's a little bit surprising, all things considered, but when he was in the portal, you and I discussed that briefly not long ago. He was in the portal and they got him out. And Sam Pittman made it public that he told him that, hey, we're going to need you to line up at wideout a little bit for us. We're going to need you to kind of take on a couple of different roles within this offense. And obviously Malik accepted. And of course he's been out of the portal for a minute now. But yeah, they're now they're getting him some reps at wide receiver and some a little bit, I would say, interesting development there. Especially he's been your QB2 now. He was your QB2 last year. He's expected to be your QB2 this year. You've got Coley, young man, redshirt freshman out of Texas, who's rumored to have been on his heels for a little bit. So, yeah, this has been a little bit of an interesting development, but not really shocking news to anybody. But, yeah, his recruiting was, and this is coming from media people who talked with him quite a bit during those days. The belief was he's not playing wide receiver. Like, he's here to be quarterback, and so they're going to keep him at the QB2 spot while also getting reps at wide receiver. So, yeah, it's been interesting to say the least.
Well, there's a harsh reality that hits these athletes, even at this level, that depending on their aspirations, and their aspirations are many times, as we've discussed in the past, a bit bigger, a bit larger than they should be, because athletes, to be successful, have to have large egos. So they tend to overestimate their ability and their ceiling. And especially at the quarterback position, there's less of a hit to the ego and the pride if you're being told, hey, we know you came in as a cornerback. We need you at safety. You don't quite have the cover skills or the speed. We want you to play safety. Got to move you there. Or, you're not fast enough to play wide out. We're going to bulk you up, move you to tight end. There's a position change that we can make for you. Linebacker to, we're going to switch you all the way over. You're a running back to linebacker on defense or whatever. But there's, and certainly that's an adjustment to be made and a hit to the ego, but no more so than quarterbacks. You can't play quarterback. We're kind of telling you between the lines, look at other career options.
So the way I've looked at this, we talked this up quite a bit last week on the PTN, on Pig Trail Network, on the live shows. Talked about this quite a bit. And what I've kind of come up with, to me, these are three possible scenarios. Again, I'm not saying that they're all right or that they're all wrong. I'm just kind of wondering if these are the three scenarios here that are playing out. One of which, the first of the three being staff not overly thrilled about his development at the QB2 spot. And maybe one of the guys have kind of caught up to Hornsby and, talking about Coley or maybe the other transfer kid they brought in recently. Maybe they feel like he's hit his ceiling at that QB2 spot. Or the staff is a little concerned about what's going on at wide receiver. So why not toss the speedy dual threat quarterback, toss him at the slot position? I mean, he's quick, Mark. When he's on the field, he's probably one of the three fastest guys on the field. Could play the slot position. 6'2", what is he, $185? Maybe $180, $185, something like that. Or the third option, which could be the most likely, they just want to utilize his athleticism, point blank, and line him up, like I said, at the slot position and just let him go. So it could be one of those three, all three, a little bit of all three or none of them. I don't know, but it's hard for me to see them lining up at wide receiver, getting reps at wide receiver, and not at least thinking or pondering the idea, wait a minute, is there something, maybe they feel a little bit better about Coley. Maybe Coley has taken his spot. But if that were the case, the plan is, and Sam Pittman talked about this last week, the plan is to keep him at the QB2 spot. So if he truly had lost his position, I feel like maybe Sam, I would hope anyways, would come out and just say it like, look, Coley's caught up to him. We want to try him out at wide receiver. We want to see what he can do there. So I kind of think it's maybe a little bit of all three. I don't know that they're panicking about him in his progression. After all, he's only a redshirt sophomore, which you and I both know is still relatively young in the quarterback's development stage. He's still got plenty of time to grow. So yeah, I think it's kind of worth pondering. Like, what is there something maybe going on with the rest of the wide receivers? Maybe they're not where they thought they would be. Maybe they saw this when they pulled him out of the portal and they were kind of looking at their options, and they saw this coming a while back. And this has nothing to do with him at QB2. It has more to do with what's going on at wide receiver. Maybe they don't have a lot of faith there, but I have a hard time seeing that being the case because, of guys like Hazelwood, being here and Warren Thompson, who, by the way, I know I didn't bring this up and I probably should have before we started recording. Been really impressed with his footage that I've seen on video. I think he's lost a little bit of weight. He looks like he's got a little bit more burst. So off the line of scrimmage. So might be someone to keep an eye on when I go to the spring open practice on the 16th. Going to keep an eye on him. But
you're a Warren Thompson guy, Ty. You bring him up all the time.
Do I?
It seems like it. You like Warren Thompson.
Maybe I do. I do like him. And he was so highly recruited out of high school when he went to Florida State. He's this big bodied. He honestly, he kind of reminds you of Treylon Burks, like in terms of his physicality. He's got a good catch radius. But of course, we know the UAPB game, he had like 4 drops in that game. And before that, he struggled with dropping passes a little bit. I am a fan. I love his size. I don't know why he didn't, blow up last year. I really thought he might, especially with Mike Woods going to Oklahoma. He never really took on that role. But yeah, I am a fan. I'm hoping that he lives up. I hope his game translates onto the field and in this offense. But yeah, I kind of wonder if there's just something going on maybe with the rest of the receivers, or most likely they just want to try him out at wideout because of his skill and his athleticism.
And I don't think there's any question from a scouting perspective that the most difficult half of the equation is not judging these high school players and saying, even at the quarterback position, he's big enough, strong enough, the arms where it needs to be, the speed, evaluating all the physical aspects of it versus, especially at the quarterback position, okay, when the playbook goes from being a one-sheeter to 3 inches thick, and then the probably more important, the defenses go from he's always seeing pretty much man-to-man or a simple zone to all these exotic defenses that a Dan Lanning or somebody like that's throwing at you. Well, can they adjust to that? And trying to project just kind of being around a kid, whether he can make that adjustment. It's got to be a difficult projection to make. Yeah,
it is. You're right, and no doubt about it. But I think that it speaks volumes when you've got a coach coming out and saying that, look, we're pulling you out, we want you back. We're going to bring you back out of the portal. He didn't miss any time. He didn't miss any practices his time in the portal. And I think that's why Sam Pittman, I don't know, even if he had missed practices, I mean, let's be real. He's a rare kind of talent. You tell someone like that, hey, you missed a couple practices, see you later. I have a hard time seeing that. Someone like Malik Hornsby. But then again, Sam is a pretty strict guy when it comes to the stuff with the portal. But yeah, it says something to me that the QB2, and if you know anything about Arkansas, I know there's a lot of people that watch these that maybe only kind of keep up with the SEC, but they didn't watch a lot of Arkansas. If you watch the way KJ Jefferson plays the game of football, he plays it with the mentality of like a linebacker, not afraid of contact. And he did run into some injury issues last year. A&M in the second half, he had to sit for a quarter and a half, or well, a little more than that actually. And we had to watch Malik Hornsby come out, and Malik Hornsby just did not look prepared. He didn't look like the guy. He didn't look like we all thought he would look like. But then at the time, you kind of said, well, it is A&M, who at the time was playing really damn good football and defense. Was a stout front six, front seven. Not shocking that the redshirt freshman wasn't lighting the world on fire. But here we are now. We're into year 2 of him being the QB2 guy, and KJ is going to have that same mentality. In fact, they're making a big effort of getting those guys prepared, I think, to run the ball maybe even more this year. So KJ is probably going to have a few more runs per game, or at least it wouldn't shock me if that were the case. You better have that number 2 spot ready to go. Better have Malik Hornsby's got to be game time ready every single game, no matter the opponent. And we saw him against UAPB down in Little Rock in the second half. Mark, he looked terrible. And you're talking about University of Arkansas Pine Bluff. Like he should have just blown up, if I'm being real. And he struggled in the passing game. And so now you fast forward to where we're at now. And again, I'm not hating on the guy. I want to see him excel no matter the position. I think he could be a legitimate dual threat quarterback in this veer and shoot offense, this RPO offense that Kendall Browse has put together throughout his history as being an OC. But if he's more likely to end up playing wide receiver, then maybe you should plant him at wide receiver. And that's the other part of this equation, Mark, that I was kind of looking at. I don't understand. They're going to keep him in a black no contact jersey even when he lines up at wide receiver. So I get that even receivers in full pads, they're not brought to the ground, but there is contact made. And I saw that last year during the spring camp or the spring scrimmages. I went to the second untelevised one, and then I went to the third one that was televised, the red-white scrimmage. It was on SEC Network. Receivers are getting hit. Not hard. They're not all being brought to the ground. They blow the whistle, but still, there's still contact made. So I feel like they're going to have to make a decision. Either you full-blown put him at wide receiver or you keep him at the QB2 spot. They're going to have to make a decision. I've never been a fan of this splitting a guy up between a couple different positions. It is a hell of a weapon to have him on the field at the same time with KJ Jefferson, lining him up in the box, motioning him out to the slot. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine what that would look like. It'd be fantastic. Then dedicate him to that position, and let someone else have that crack at QB2. If that's the position you're gonna, if that's what you're gonna do, you're gonna make that change as a coaching staff. Then I think you need to stick to it.